All right, so welcome to today's lunch and learn. My name is John Canetti. For any of those that don't know me, I'm in technical support and in the engineering group. And today's a really great one because this is a brand new product for us. It's a brand new product that's kind of on the market that is a requirement now. What we're going to be covering is the A2L, what they call the A2L mitigation board. And ICM's version of this is a ICM-UA2L-24C-DUAL. Now, this is the aftermarket version of an A2L mitigation board. And I'll explain what these controls do, why they're needed, and why one would choose ICM controls over other options. So first of all, what's the law that requires the use of these boards? So basically, the EPA passed a law, the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, in 2020 that said, hey, we need to use low global warming potential refrigerants. We just kind of keep it. So basically, the EPA says, hey, look, we can't, even the new refrigerants we were using to replace the old 22 and R12, you know, the 410A was good for a long time, but now they said, you know, that's still got too much of a high global warming potential. We need to go with something that's even lower global warming potential. And so they came out with these mildly flammable refrigerants called A2L refrigerants. So as of January 1st, 2025, the EPA now requires the use of low global warming potential refrigerants for most new residential and light commercial HVAC systems. And anytime that you are putting in a new system, and if you're updating it or upgrading it and you're changing out the whole system, you'll need to, go with these new global warming potential refrigerants. And because they're mildly flammable, now I say mildly flammable, they're classified as A2L refrigerants. So under the specification, the classification for the refrigerants, your refrigerant now, as of 2025, has to have a global warming potential of 750 or less for most of your new residential and light commercial AC and heat pumps. Again, A2L refrigerants are mildly flammable, which means that over time, in low-level areas of the unit, if you have a leak, that could build up over time, and in a closed environment, that could potentially cause flammability risk. The EPA said they identified these A2L refrigerants as what they want to use that have this lower global warming potential. So we have to do something about that. We can't just, there has to be a mitigation. If you're having something that's mildly flammable, you can't have that like in your furnace, in the A coil of your furnace, collecting. And if there's a leak, we all know that refrigeration systems, due to temperature and flexing of material, pipes and stuff, you get leaks. And so because these are mildly flammable, we have to have some mitigation system to protect from any dangerous conditions. So I kind of just went over this. What happens is, let's say it's in your furnace. Let's say you get a brand new A coil in your furnace, and that you get a little leak of the A coil. Well, if you got a furnace, you know that if it's a gas furnace, and that because A2L refrigerant is heavier than air, it's going to start to settle into the lower parts of the furnace, can be ignited by the gas valve, and so that could be dangerous if it builds up to a level that supports combustion. So we have to have some type of mitigation system. And the HVAC industry is shifting towards these refrigerants, and now it's a law that all new systems as of January 2025 have to have low global warming potential or A12 refrigerants. So where does the ICM-UA2L come into the play here, and what's dual stand for? So basically, ICM said, okay, we worked with some of the major manufacturers and OEMs, and we actually produce an OEM version of an A2L board for the OEM. It's very similar to the board you're looking at. And so what it does is it's the dual aftermarket version. We wanted it for the two most common refrigerants used, two most common A2L refrigerants used in the market. That would be our 454B and R32. These are the most common A2L refrigerants used in a light commercial and residential HVAC. Now, the boards that we make for the OEMs, they can have whatever A2L refrigerant they want, and then they pick the sensor that they want. But for the aftermarket, we decided to say, what's the most common one? And we came up with this sensor that can sense the two most common A12 refrigerants out there. So this makes this board good for the aftermarket. So again, we make this for the OEM, but we also now are offering this as the dual for the aftermarket. So how's it installed? Well, you can install it inside the cabinet of your AC or heat pump, where the UA2L board will break let's say the contactor of a compressor in your AC unit, or in a heat pump, it'll also break the compressor contactor. This basically shuts off the system, right? And it'll turn on the fan. And then for rooftop units, same thing. Now for inside, that's going to be, for example, if you have a outdoor air conditioning unit, and most of us in upstate New York are going to have an outdoor unit, and then inside your house, you're going to have your furnace, and inside the furnace, there's going to be an A coil or a evaporator coil that's inside your furnace that gets really cold, and when the blower comes on, it blows they call it central air conditioning, right? So all your central air conditioners are going to have this coil in there. And now the new ones, if you get a new furnace and a new air conditioning unit, it's going to have the A2L refrigerants in. So on those models, it's not good enough. There is no compressor or anything you can break. You got to break the thermostat, which will then shut the gas valve off, so you don't have any possibility of ignition in these mildly flammable refrigerants. And then there's a detection sensor that is placed in the equipment based on the manufacturer specifications. So basically, you've got to put that sensor in an area where the refrigerant is going to collect. A lot of times, remember, this refrigerant is heavier than air, so it's going to try to collect in lower areas of the furnace, lower areas of the AC unit and heat pump. So you're going to want to put your sensor in those areas where that refrigerant is going to collect. So how does the sensor work? Well, the sensor company that we use, which is Sensata, we use what they call the Resonance RGD series, because it's got the best-in-class response time to these A12 refrigerants. And what it does is it's kind of neat. It tracks the speed of sound at a resonant frequency in the environment of this A12 refrigerant. So when the A12 refrigerant leaks into an environment, it changes the way sound travels through that environment. And we can pick up that change with the sensor very, very sensitivity, I try to say, very high sensitivity. This sensor is IP54 rated, which is an industry certification. It's got a 15-year lifetime. It doesn't have, you don't have to worry about chemical reaction because it's monitoring the change in the sound of the airspace when the refrigerant enters that airspace. You don't have to worry about it being degraded by chemical exposure or exposure to refrigerants. Like some of the other types that sense the actual refrigerant itself, it can get saturated if you got a huge leak. This one's a little bit different. So there's no calibration or re-zeroing needed. Because again, it's all doing it off the base of the principle of resonant frequency of sound in that environment. So when there's no gas present, the sound looks to the sensor a certain way. When the minute the gas enters it, changes it, and it picks that change on. All right, so where do we put the sensor? So we talked about that you need this. We talked about that we have a board for both outdoor units and indoor units. We talked about how the sensor works, but now where do we put the sensor? So this is not something you as a homeowner would do. This is something that has to be done by, a certified technician. So when they come in, if you ever have a new system put in, they're gonna have to have, now, hopefully it will come with its own mitigation system by the OEM, which we also supply. But if you have a repair guy come in and he replaces just the 8 coil in your air conditioning unit, then he's gonna have to put in a mitigation system if you didn't have one. So he's gonna buy one of our boards, hopefully, and he's gonna have the sensor included in the kit. So the sensor comes included in the kit that you buy with the UA2L-24C-DUAL. And so we looked up the UL recommendations. Again, every system is going to be a little different. So I can't tell you exactly where the sensor is going to go in every single system. But in general, the instructions will specify the sensors are mounted in locations where leak refrigerants will collect. This is part of the UL classification. HVAC equipment, which can be installed in multiple positions. So in other words, you can have a vertical A coil, or sometimes you have a horizontal. It's up in an attic or something. You might have a horizontal system. So, and you see in these diagrams, they're showing you that it can be mounted so many inches away from the sidewall, so many inches up. So generally you're looking in the path of the airflow right about midsection, maybe above the drain pan, not in near the drain pan too close because you don't want water to get on it, but somewhere in that vicinity, right in the airstream. And on this one here, you see it's on the side here, where again, the refrigerant's gonna, remember, it's heavier than air, so gravity's gonna bring that refrigerant down, and you want it somewhere around the middle of the coil where the refrigerant's going to collect. So why would you choose ICM over maybe other manufacturers that make A2L boards? Well, listen, we make them for the OEMs. So why not? Why wouldn't you go with us, right? So we make it for the OEMs. So we're experienced in designing control boards from multiple OEMs. In fact, we make this board for many of the OEMs. They're manufactured and designed right here in the US in our vertically integrated facility by expert people here that are dedicated to doing quality work. They're a convenient option for repair techs, which offer a lower lead time, quicker repairs, because, hey, listen, if you can buy the product from a dealer here and get the air conditioner unit fixed real quick, as opposed to waiting for some OEM to order from overseas, it could take a while, right? So you got a lot of quicker, convenient repairs. It offers dual refrigerant sensing. So in other words, some of the OEMs might only sense one particular refrigerant or another. This one does the 2 most widely used refrigerants. So it makes it a nice option, a very convenient option for people to cover a wide variety of different applications. Its plastic enclosed control board protects the electronics from dust, dirt, debris. So we got a nice enclosure that it's put in so it doesn't get moisture, dirt, debris in there that can damage the board. And it comes with an extra long 6-foot wire harness for the sensor placement. So because we don't know exactly where you're going to have to place a sensor, and don't forget there's the size of the board. So when you mount the board in there, you got another 3 or 4 inches you got to worry about. So we give you an extra long cord so that you should be able to locate it wherever you need to mitigate your leaks. And also, don't forget, this board comes with dual sensor applications as well. So in other words, I don't know if you can see it in that picture, but there's 2 ports for sensors. So let's say you got a big commercial system and you needed more space, right? Your coil was so big that you couldn't really fully protect yourself with just one sensor. You can add another sensor on there, and now you have over a 12-foot span that you could mount the sensor here and mount another sensor over here to the left. And so you can cover the entire coil rather than just hoping that the leak is going to be over on one side. You have to be able to cover the whole coil. Now, if it gets really, really big, you can also order another board and you'll get 2 more sensors. So you could have then multiple locations to place sensors and sense leaks. So you got to cover the whole coil when you're sensing leaks. But then, I don't have any specifications on the distance or anything like that. But basically, the guidelines are where refrigerant can collect, and you got to figure, roughly in the distance of the cord that we supply. So basically, this unit features fault monitoring. So it tells you when there's a fault. It has a status LED to tell you when it's an alarm and when it's not an alarm. Calibration features on it, dry contacts to turn on and off the outputs. And then there's a lot of other electrical stuff there that's probably really not important for us right here, but those are just some of the other specifications. But basically, you have relays that turn on and off, like the fan, turn on the fan when you're in mitigation mode, turn off the compressor. So let's talk about how it works. So an initial power up, there's a 1-minute initialization period that occurs, which basically gives the sensors time to warm up, all right? Because they also use heat in their process, so they have to warm up. And then once the sensors warm up, they're ready to communicate. Once that board gets a valid communication signal back from the sensor, it says, okay, we're ready to go. If the control detects a valid leak that exceeds what they call the low flammability limit, the board will go into a lockout, turn off the compressor contactor output, turn on the fan output, and turn off the alarm output. Now, that's going to throw everybody for a loop. It works sort of reverse of what you would think. So they want you to be able to see a light, the LED light, when everything is good, so that you can peek into the box and say, am I good? Oh yeah, I see a light. Say it's dark outside, peek in the box, you can see a light, you're good. If you get a problem, you get a leak and it goes into lockout, then that light goes out. So then if you don't see that light anymore, that LED illuminated, you're in lockout. You gotta mitigate. You got a problem with the leak. You gotta fix that leak. All right. So what we're gonna do, I want to go back a little bit. What time is it? It's pretty close. Good. I just want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, there's a difference. Some of those come with a button and don't go in a case.
Yeah, so some of them are made for the OEM, and the OEM has an open board design. They may have an open board design. These are strictly for the aftermarket. This is a new product we're releasing. This is not the one that you're used to making, which is for the OEM only. This is going to be the aftermarket version that will only come in a plastic enclosure.
The wires will come on the side, or will they be attached? Case, or that's how the cases. Sorry, we're just used to. Yeah. One thing. Are both lights gonna go off on again too? Will both of them go off?
It's the alarm.
Okay.
The alarm light goes out when there's a leak present and it shuts everything down. So you can see here, this is your typical application for an outdoor unit. You see now, this is a little bit closer. You can see where you have the ability to connect two sensors. And then you can see where the fan is connected to the fan terminal, the compressor contactor. So basically what's gonna happen is, as soon as you reach that, what they call the low flammability limit, trip point, it's sensed enough where it says, okay, there's a leak. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna turn on the fan, turn off the compressor, and turn off the alarm LED. So that you know that there's a leak and you gotta take care of it. Your fan will be running, the light will be out, so something's wrong. You gotta fix that leak. Now, I wanted to show you both of these because remember we said we had two basic types, right? We have the type that is for residential or for HVAC systems, both commercial, rooftop units, they're pretty much outdoors, air handlers and things like that. But then you also got the indoor ones, right? So the ones where somebody's changing an A coil. That would be this guy here. So here, you can see the difference here. We've got furnace port over here. We've got the R, the C, and the G connected to the board. So basically, the board is being powered by the furnace port, okay? And if you sense a leak, what it's gonna do now is it's gonna break the R of the thermostat. This is gonna shut your call. This is gonna shut the call up from the board. So basically, your furnace is gonna say, oh, I have no W call, it's gonna shut the gas off. And it's gonna turn, and this relay will energize the G terminal, which is the fan terminal of your control board. So it'll run your indoor fan to mitigate, keep air flowing, okay? So that you don't have a buildup of any gas. Okay. And again, we have the ability for a couple of sensors for this one as well. So they're very similar, but one simply just breaks the compressor contactor and turns on the fan. The other one breaks your thermostat and turns on the fan. So I think we've covered, I just wanted to make sure I covered everything. All right, so now we'll open the floor up for some questions. I know we have a few.
Yeah, we have a few questions in the chat. So we have the first one from Bob Moore, and I think we answered the first part already. Can you use this in commercial applications? And the second part is how many CFN can the sensor handle?
The second part, I do not know the answer to that. Again, this is, that's something that is very broad, terminology used here. With the way that we have to set these things up. I don't know how many CFMs the sensor can handle, but it is designed to be able to be used in the airstream. And remember, this is using the speed of sound. So it's not actually like concentrations. It's more or less how the concentration of refrigerant in the space affects the sound. Now, that being said, yes, it can be used in commercial applications.
Then we have another one from Eric Jensen. What color is the alarm light?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Does anybody, I don't recall off the top of my head. Might be green. Does anybody remember? Evan?
Green and red.
You got a green and red alarm? Yeah. Green or, so green is probably the okay light. I would assume the alarm light.
Yes, it gets green, yeah, which one's the
Red would have to be. So the alarm light should be red. I can verify that and send you an email on it.
Then we have another one. Is it legal to retrofit an existing non-A12 system with a condenser metering device and this mitigation?
So I'm not prepared to answer a legal question, but the whole purpose of this board is for that purpose. So yes, it's meant to replace, if you are changing out an A coil, let's say, and there is no mitigation system, and you have to use now
Hey, good morning, it's Joe with.
A2L refrigerants, then this board is designed for that application.
And then one from Ken Ferry, it's our last question so far. Do you receive 2 sensors for the system, or will you need to purchase a second if you need to?
Very, very good question. It only comes with 1 sensor, and we have just recently set up a part number so that people can order a second sensor. Yes, you would have to order an additional sensor if it was required.
And another-
I'm calling to get, it's Joe with M. Cooper Wind Supply. Calling to get a price on a Tecmar 261 controller.
Sorry, Joe, could you turn off your microphone?
I can see everybody's paying so close attention.
All right.
Okay, and another question, from Nick. Do you have to remove the sensor when brazing?
I can't repeat that.
Do you have to remove the sensor when brazing?
When brazing, so the fact that it is not something that is sensitive to chemicals, I would say off the top of my head, probably not, but that's something I would have to confirm. It shouldn't be a problem as long as you don't clog the filter, but I said, that's something I'd have to verify, but I don't think so. Thank you guys for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? These are all great questions, keep them coming.
We'll find you on the floor.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like via email or, any other way that, you could call me, you can send a Teams message or email, and, we'll do our best to answer every question that you got.
Right, sorry, we did end up having one more come through.
Perfect.
Being that this is field installed, what does it do to the UL listing of oil?
So this shouldn't affect any UL listings because the whole purpose of this control is to be as a safe. It's a safety, so it shouldn't affect the UL listings, but again, I don't know what the rules and regulations with, a UL certified cabinet. This is, it's either UL recognized or UL listed, the product itself, but I think it's because it's a low voltage control, it's UL recognized. So a UL recognized component can go in a UL listed cabinet. So, it shouldn't affect anything with UL because a recognized component can be used in a UL listed environment. But that's a very good question. If nobody has anything else, I thank you, Paul, for joining us today. It was my pleasure to present this information. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact us at 1-800-365-5525, either that or info@icmcontrols.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.